Welcome back to Class on Grass Podcast, Season 2, Episode 26.
Yeah, not a lot happened this week,
No.
to be perfectly honest. But I did get a fresh haircut, which...
Only like an hour old.
Oh, yeah, only an hour old. Some would say it's a bit too short. But, you know, the lie that they give to you is that they cut it to the right length the first time around, you know, like when they do it.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's gone, like, right after, because it grows too fast. So you like your cut, but then it grows too fast. So I was, like, laying out the phases of hair, right? For me, top priority is when it's, like, perfect, but then a little bit longer is, like, second best, and then it's really short, and then it's super long. So I don't want it to get super long. Mm-hmm. So we go really short to perfect.
We've seen the super long.
Yeah, super long was, like, last week. You don't want to see it very often. No. I think this is better than what I had before.
Yeah, definitely.
And then I'll grow into it. Exactly. You see?
Yeah, you're like the long term.
Yes.
Yeah, because you said you don't like go into the getting a haircut, right?
Well, it doesn't bother me at all. It's just, and you know, it's kind of annoying to schedule one and all that. But then also, the worst is when I get distracted by my hair if it's too long. I'll like play with it all the time and stuff like that. I'll be in like school or in class and I'll just like be like making knots with my hair, and which is completely not what you're supposed to be doing with your hair. But
no, that's probably not ideal.
But you know, it's just how it goes sometimes. Yeah. But yeah, one thing that we have to touch on immediately, that is some of the biggest news we've had in a while. Although this was a light week, you know, it was some of the biggest news that we've had in
most surprising,
football
I'd say,
for a while.
Yeah.
Zlatan Ibrahimovic has chosen to be recalled to the Swedish national team after 4 years of having been, quote unquote, retired from it. So yeah, now he is going to be going back for the Euros, which is, you know, I've been thinking about this. I like Porto in the Champions League. I like Brighton in the Premier League. And now I'm going to be a Sweden fan during the Euros.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So, wait, he chose to be recalled? Or he was, like, they offered him and he was like, yeah, sure.
He didn't want to be on the Swedish national team until now. He wanted to be retired. But
then, like, he decided he wanted to be, and then they let him on?
Yes, they weren't saying you can't be on the Swedish national team.
But, like, this time around, was it like, hey, if you want me, I will join? Or was it like they asked first and they're like, please come back?
It seems like a really Zlatan thing to do, to say, if you want Zlatan, Zlatan will come.
Yeah, or he just showed up.
Yeah, he shows up at the training ground. He's like, I guess he's back.
Yeah.
I guess he's back. But yeah, that's got to be probably the biggest news for the week. Are you excited to see him play for Sweden?
Mm-hmm, definitely. I mean, he never really played that much for Sweden, at least when I started watching. And so, like, I only know him from kind of PSG, Manchester United type days. But, I mean, Sweden really have never, since him, they really have never had a striker. Like, they've got some decent players, right?
Henrik Larsson?
Well, he was before. Wasn't he?
Yeah. Oh, you mean since?
Since he left.
I thought you were saying like ever. I was like, how could you be forgetting about Henrik Larsson?
Yeah. No,
although I think Zlatan's a bit of a step above Henrik Larsson in career pedigree. Although Henrik Larsson was an unbelievable striker. Mm-hmm. Career pedigree, I'd take Zlatan. Yeah, I started following him more in his Manchester United days. I knew him because of his FIFA Ultimate Team cards from PSG. You know, all the Team of the Years that he got, what have you. But I didn't really follow him as a person till he came to the Premier League. But you know, even though I wasn't watching that memorable, should I say, game, memorable. Yes. The memorable game where he scored the bicycle kick from about 35 yards out. It's still a work of art to watch after it's happened. It's not, you know, I still can appreciate how unbelievable that goal is to this day.
I don't know how it's not mentioned more in like greatest goals of all time. Like,
I think it's one of the greatest goals of all time.
It was so far out, and to hit a bicycle kick.
He's got the kung fu, the
off
jiu-jitsu,
one
karate.
bounce, and with enough power and enough loop. There's a player on the line too.
The player on the line, like they weren't on the line, they were close.
Yeah, running back towards the line. Like at least there was someone close to almost.
I mean, the odds of that going in are so small.
Yeah, the XG had to be like 0.001 or something.
The XG stats for the goal.
Yeah,
XG's they're just making like stats as the game goes on. Will this pass happen?
Yeah.
But yeah, on the topic of national team commits, could you say? People who have committed back to a national team or to a national team. Musa, the Valencia player who had dual citizenship, or like, so he has citizenship like everywhere, I think.
Yeah, I think he had like three countries probably.
And I think one of them was better than the U.S. I don't exactly know. It was like an African country, England, and the U.S. and something like that. But he has chosen the U.S. Very smart decision, I think, from him. You know, if it is England that is the team that he had nationality towards, it might not have been. But we know it's a team of that caliber. He's probably not going to get time in that team yet, definitely, and maybe ever in his career, depending on how it goes. And he's going to be put right into the starting 11 of the United States national team. I mean, when he played those games with us in November, I think it was, he looked really good.
Yeah, it had to be just playing time. Like, okay, we have a good young team that will probably make most likely the next 2 or 3 World Cups in a row and do decently well if we develop, and you will get a starting spot with every single game. Or you play for England, who probably can do a little better in those tournaments, but you probably won't play for another.
Yeah, I mean, he would have to have an extremely successful breakout season in order to get time on one of those big national teams.
And probably leave Valencia too.
Yeah, exactly. Especially because if it's Spain, it's really hard to say when we don't actually know what the nationalities were. This podcast, just by the way, was kind of thrown together last minute because I leave tomorrow morning to go to Florida. But yeah, we don't actually know the exact stat for that. So it's kind of hard to tell, because if he's from Spain, then he has a bigger chance being at Valencia. But if he's from England, they're going to favor someone who's in the Premier League, highlighting the nation's pride and the nation's league. Over someone who's left. I mean, it seems as though Kieran Trippier might have a harder time getting minutes now in that team, and he was very solidified in the 2018 World Cup. So even that move to Atletico Madrid for him clearly bumped him down a few spots just politically in that lineup. So I think it's smart for Musa to, especially like if we're looking on the political side, being from Europe or being on a European team that's good bodes really well for your national team capabilities in the United States, just because, the viewpoint on European teams and players that the United States people have as a whole is that it's so much better, so much cooler, and that no matter who the player is or how well they're doing or what team they're on, as long as they're in a European top 5 league or maybe even second division, they're miles above everyone else.
Oh yeah, and also with like U.S. soccer fans, a lot of them don't know more than just the top teams. So if he says like, if you're playing for a like mid-table German team or something or Spanish team, they'll be like, oh, he's on a bad team. Like he's probably not that good. But then, now we see a lot of players at top teams and then like, oh, U.S. is really good now.
Yeah.
It's like, I think McKennie, he's developed well at Juventus. I think
he wasn't known at Schalke.
Yeah. I think he was playing as important of a role at Schalke than at Juventus. So. Yeah.
But it's great to see that Musa has committed to the United States. And the lineup for the U.S., which came out, I can't remember what day, but it was this past week, or the roster, should I say, is almost entirely European players.
Yeah.
Really promising.
Because they're playing in Europe.
They're playing in the international break in Europe.
Yeah.
And I know there's no way that they're actually going to take all European guys like that. Like, the only ones that weren't European was, like, Sebastian Lletget. Is that how you say it?
Lletget.
Lletget, yeah. But other than that, it was pretty much all European players. And they're not going to take all European guys like that, but I prefer that roster, personally.
Yeah. I mean, and it's like most of the players that are playing in Europe are the better players for the US, so it does kind of work out that way, I would say.
Exactly. So now we're going to move over to, more of the actual footy that's happened this past week. We have a small section for it, and then we're going to go into the Champions League draw and just some other stuff. But the one thing we're going to talk about footy that happened this week on the pitch was Spurs losing 3-0 to Dinamo Zagreb. And they were up 2-0 on aggregate, but when you concede 3 in the second leg, it means you're going home.
And it was a hat trick by one guy.
Yeah, and I mean, props to him. He looks like a very good player.
2 of his goals were incredible.
Really? I didn't watch the highlights.
Both outside of the box, dribbles like 3 guys.
Wow.
Yeah, it was insane.
But yeah, I mean, it's the Europa League, so you expect Spurs to get past to the round of 16. I mean, that's just kind of how it is.
Yeah.
You need to. Or is it the round of 32? Did they do 32 in the Europa League?
Oh, it probably is like one behind.
Yeah, I think it's
Champions League because there's more teams, maybe.
So, but you'd expect them to get past that point.
Oh yeah,
100%.
At least like quarterfinals, semifinals.
Yeah. And I think that I know you might think the same, but I think that this puts Jose Mourinho's job at question. I don't. If he stays and they continue their league form and clearly they can't win a trophy in Europe now, I don't know what's happening over there.
Yeah, all the things I've seen is Tottenham are looking into replacements already, especially if they don't get top 4 this season. And I've also seen like they think Mourinho has like lost the dressing room, like no one's really playing for him anymore. None of the players are, and like his whole style is park the bus, like that's what he's known for.
Yeah,
and apparently like he's tried to make them more a pressing team and stuff like that and sacking, but they've just sat back more and like just like not doing like what he wants them to do and doing the opposite. Yeah. And it's really just not a good situation. You could kind of say it's like Newcastle, but
on a different level.
Yeah, it's more of a big club having a tough situation, but they're not like relegation threatened.
Do I see in our notes right now that the manager of Dinamo Zagreb was in jail?
Yeah,
for the game.
For the game, I think very recently before the game, he got arrested, and he wasn't even at the game, and he still outmanaged Jose Mourinho 3-0.
Things you love to see.
Really, just a great story.
I mean, it's a good story, but it's also a bad story. Like, we shouldn't be praising someone for going to jail.
No,
clearly he did something wrong.
Just unusual circumstances that he's pulled off a Europa League win after being 2-0 down to Tottenham. So
yes,
very Spursy.
Very Spursy.
Yeah.
So now we're gonna move over to sorry, it's a quick episode. I feel like we're like zooming through this, but now we're gonna move over to the Champions League draw. This was probably the biggest thing that happened this week besides
the best draw ever.
I am really excited for the draw because as a Porto fan in this Champions League, I am excited about that. And also we have a repeat of 2 Champions League finals. So I'll just go through with the 2 Champions League finals. Real versus Liverpool is one of the draws, and that was the 2018 Champions League final. And PSG Bayern is another draw, and that was the 2020 Champions League final. So a repeat of 2 very recent Champions League finals. Sure, Liverpool aren't even close to their bests, but it's still
Real
cool
Madrid aren't either.
To see. Yeah, it's still cool to see that history, coming back. And then also Man City versus Dortmund, which is honestly an interesting game for Erling Haaland, because I think Man City is a possible suitor for him.
Yeah.
Seeing how he plays against them will be really interesting, and could shape the next few years of his life. So I'm interested to see how that goes. And then the last draw is Porto-Chelsea, which I honestly think is the best possible way that, or draw that Porto could have had, because I think Erling Haaland on Dortmund would have been able to get past Pepe with his older age.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really see anyone on Chelsea that's going to be able to get through a good defense with Pepe. I mean, with how he's playing, I think he's rated as the 5th best center back in the world right now. And considering he's 35 or 38, I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
That's just crazy. And then the other team other than Dortmund that might have been better would be Liverpool. But again, I think that Liverpool on a Champions League night can bring more.
I think, and they've showed that. I mean, they really haven't had much trouble at all in the Champions League this year.
They just have some buzz around them.
Yeah, despite their form in the league, they really haven't missed a step. They easily took care of Leipzig.
Yeah, and Leipzig's not a bad team right now, doing really well in the Bundesliga, better than Dortmund.
Yeah, and Real Madrid, I think they could. I could easily see them beating Real Madrid. They're two teams. Once at their best, the past couple of years have fallen off a bit now. That will be very interesting. So would you say your favorite is the Porto match just because you're
Just because I'm looking for Porto to do well? The one that I'm most interested to see how it pans out is PSG Bayern, because the only change to that match is Thomas Tuchel not being in the manager seat for PSG. So just seeing how Maurizio Pochettino changes that PSG side to look a little bit different. And sure, Thiago Silva's also not in the lineup. I didn't forget about that. But I think that Kimpembe and Marquinhos are doing just as good, if not better. Sure, they don't have the veterans aspects to their game, but Kimpembe looks unbelievable this year.
Yeah, and I mean, don't forget about the first leg against Barcelona where Mbappe just took over and the defense looked pretty solid as well. So I think if PSG are in the mood, I think they could definitely give Bayern a challenge. Over 2 legs, I'd still take Bayern. But yeah, I think don't count out Mbappe. I think Neymar would be back by then, probably. Yeah. I would probably say Real Madrid, Liverpool, just because I have no idea which team is going to come out and actually perform, because they're both very inconsistent at the moment. And I could see a very high scoring game as well across the 2 legs. And Man City, Dortmund, like we said, I mean, Jadon Sancho coming back to Man City, his former club. And then with the Haaland prospect, I don't know. I see Man City easily taking care of them, because at this point, Dortmund really are only Haaland, to be honest, in attack. Sancho does provide kind of assists and stuff, but I think Man City will just score too many goals, to be honest.
I 100% agree with that. And did you see the quote about, or that Pep put out about Jadon Sancho?
No.
Thought it was kind of interesting, because I think that Jadon Sancho's story is overlooked a lot at Man City. Pep, and as any good coach would say, probably seeing Jadon Sancho do really well at Dortmund, but still, if this is true, then I have to give props to Pep. He said, we thought Jadon was a really good prospect. We thought he was going to be a great player for us, but his choice was to leave because he wanted more time and he wanted a different kind of development. And it makes me happy when the player chooses what makes them happy, and that clearly made him happy as a player, so I'm happy for him. And I thought that was very respectful and just good to see from Pep Guardiola, to accept what happened, say, it's not because I didn't think he was good, it's just because what the player wanted to do, and we had, I wanted whatever made him happy as a player.
Yeah, over the past couple weeks and months, from what I've heard from Pep, it's just made me like him more.
Yeah.
Basically, like,
really
everything he's saying. Guy. Yeah, and even just his tactics and his philosophy about soccer, it's like just really genuine, like just play and like enjoy it and be organized, play as a team. And then just respecting other managers as well.
It's really weird how winning does that to you.
Yeah. I'm sure if he's losing, he's different. Not going to have the same.
It's a different
respect for them, but
tone that he has towards the media and in his team. But ever since John Stones and Ruben Diaz just became an unstoppable partnership, and now they're not even always partnered in there, but they just kind of got that momentum going.
Yeah.
And Man City haven't stopped steamrolling teams since, and it's weird. It's funny how that sense of I don't know how to explain it. That sense of knowing you are better and you are going to win and that your team will not let you down. And that sense of just knowing that your team are on a roll right now. And I think it relieves a ton of stress from Pep. You know, he has to do his tactics still, but he isn't questioned by them. He hasn't been questioned by the media since January.
No.
So, you know, that's got to be a really, really good for a manager to have that just breath of fresh air for a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I think it's cleared his mind in media interviews and in his tactics, and now he's talking to his players, because great managers can spiral downhill and bad managers can go really high uphill. You know, there's all these things that can happen, but I think it's good to see from Pep.
Yeah, I mean, like you see, obviously, like you were just saying, there's no complaints there when you're winning every game and you're going on a 20-game winning streak or something. And then you see Klopp, when Liverpool are struggling with injuries and everything, making up more excuses. You can't really blame him for it, though.
Yeah.
Because
he's
can't
competitive.
Do it. Yeah, and he
wants to win.
Yeah, he can't do anything about those injuries. And,
yeah,
you know, VAR calls go against you, and you just have to address it. And I think it really does show what type of manager you are when you are struggling. Mm-hmm. I remember Pep wasn't really that negative when Man City were struggling at the beginning of the season.
He just drank a ton of water.
Yeah, that's how he copes.
He literally would drink a full water bottle every time.
Plastic water as soon as they concede. But yeah, I can't really remember him being that negative, especially on his players.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really see him blaming a lot of it on the players. I think he usually goes, like, it's not our night, or tactics were wrong. The other team was just too good, you know?
You know, I think Pep is really good at accepting and taking the blame on himself. I think that's one attribute that Pep Guardiola has that a lot of top managers out there do not have. When you're winning, it's fine. You there's no blame to take. Mm-hmm. But we can see now that Jurgen Klopp doesn't think, and sure, VAR calls injuries. You have to give it to him. He's had a rough season. But as the manager of the team, you're the guy who needs to take the blame. And it's really hard because he's got a ton of pride for what he's done with this team and what they've done. And to just suddenly be like, yeah, we're not that good right now, and I need to work harder with the players, and I need to, you know, sure, we've had injuries, but I need to find solutions to these, and I'm not finding them right now. Saying that to the media is really hard.
Oh, yeah. And especially, like, when it's not really his fault with those injuries, and then it just keeps happening, and when they get those players back, they're still not performing.
Yeah.
Like, you can't really find a lot of positive light in there. Yeah. And
I think Pep's really good at it.
Yeah, it just kind of shows, so...
Yeah, the last thing that we're going to talk about is, well, it's not really branching off of it, but Man City could still be running for that quadruple, did they win the quadruple when that one season? No.
Three.
They won four. They won four. But
no, I don't think they did.
I think it was the Carabao Cup, the FA Cup, the Premier League, and...
They didn't win the Champions League.
They didn't win the Champions League. They must have won 3 or 2.
I think it was they've
broken that 100-point
gap.
But I mean, it would be the first time if they win the lion that Pep is going to have to take down is the Champions League.
Yes.
That's what he can't get right now in Man City. I mean, he's not even been close ever.
No.
Like, he's never been close.
No. Like, quarterfinals every single time.
I think, did they make it to the semifinals once? Maybe? No.
I think
it's just quarterfinals out, you know? And if they lose to Dortmund, I'm going to be really interested to see how Pep reacts to that. If that happens.
And you'd have to think the owners brought him in, like, not just to win the Premier League, because they were doing that somewhat well.
They've done it before.
Yeah.
And they've done it, they do it consistently enough, and they do well consistently enough. They need a Champions League.
Yeah, they brought him in to win the Champions League, and I think this year would be kind of the weirder year to, like, win it because of how kind of subpar they were in the beginning of the season, and then how well they were doing now, and kind of just
appeared
at the top of the table and just haven't been moved since.
They really just kind of swooped in without anyone noticing.
I mean, they're in the final of the Carabao Cup. They're still in the FA Cup. They just won today to go into the semifinals. They're in the quarterfinals for Champions League against Dortmund, a weaker side.
The pack in the Premier League.
So I think it's all set up and it's in their own hands to do it. And I think, really Bayern, I'd say.
Yeah, Bayern. I mean, Porto.
Yeah, that's true. If they sit, I mean,
you never know.
The underdog, you know.
You never know. Oral Roberts pulled it off. If you guys didn't know, which you probably don't, if you know, that's kind of concerning. But I put Oral Roberts all the way through to the final on my NCAA bracket for March Madness, and it was due to a lot of great research and studies about the players and the competition.
Who Oral Roberts was.
I know he's a televangelist. He's dead now.
Mm-hmm. I think what did we look up? 2009.
Yeah, he died in 2009. Yep. Probably made a lot of money off of his career at some point. But yeah, so as you can see, really two hosts who have a lot of knowledge about not just soccer, but about sport and how sport works.
Just sport.
Oral Roberts pulled off the biggest upset so far in the March Madness. They're 15 seed, and they beat Ohio State 2 seed. But we won't talk about that too long because some of you guys don't really want to hear about that on this podcast.
We'll make a new podcast.
Yeah, a new podcast called Just for the NCAA Tournament. It's like one per year.
Like 4 times a day. Just a constant live
It's a live stream the whole time.
Yeah, for 2
weeks
We
changed
straight.
The whole background.
Yeah.
We put the Chinese New Year Kevin Durant jersey up.
Yep, the Timberwolves jersey.
Yeah, exactly.
And then our SPA jersey.
There we go. Yeah, perfect. But that does wrap up this week's podcast. About 26 minutes. Not too bad. Not too long. But it's spring break for a lot of people right now. And if it's not spring break and you still have work, it's spring and it's getting warmer out. So I hope that everyone listening to this has a great week. They are able to get outside and enjoy sunshine wherever you are located. And we will be back on the Zoom this coming week. And who doesn't like the Zoom?
Yes.
Exactly. All right. We will see you guys next time. Peace.